The Miami Hurricanes have just added the final piece to their starting 2025 offensive line. We got ourselves a center from the 817 to the 305. James Brockermeyer, welcome to the U.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
2023, 2024, and now 25. Miami Hurricanes go 3 for 3 in adding veteran centers, quality centers through the transfer portal. I think this move is great, adding Brockermeyer. I hope we don't have to do this too many more times because I think the center for the future is coming in as a true freshman, and that's S.J. Alofa-Tuli. But adding James Brockermeyer, I think, is a great move for 2025. I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC and writer for Canes County at Rivals. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Also on this special Saturday episode, we're going to talk about the search for a defensive coordinator, the search for a quarterback, how much patience is required for what Mario Cristobal is building here at Miami. We're going to talk about, because the addition of James Brockermeyer is not the only move that Miami made on Friday night. Miami has hired a new, important, let's say, quote-unquote front office, because I don't think you call it the front office in college football, but an important new personnel executive Miami has added for their football program, which is going to really help streamline and improve that recruiting department. And yeah, the Miami Hurricanes have just added a new center. Let's bring on our very good friend. It's been a long time since we had our guy, G.A. Kane fan, with us, Raymond Borg. Raymond, Miami now, their starting offensive line has a ton of experience. Gabby Urruti at 24/7 notes that the projected starting offensive line of Markel Bell, James Brockermeyer now at center, Matthew McCoy at left guard, Inez Cooper right guard, CeCe Malinois at right tackle. This group has played a total of 3,808 snaps. That was during the 2024 season, just to show how much experience these guys have. And James Brockermeyer, Raymond, who started all 12 games at TCU this past year, only gave up one sack this season, had an awesome 80.2 pass blocking grade. I've also seen on film some really good stuff from him in run blocking as well, getting to the second level. Miami over the past couple of years, they had Matt Lee for a season who was excellent, Zach Carpenter for a season who was really good, and Brockermeyer, who I think actually has 2 years of eligibility left. I think this is a really good addition, and Miami's starting offensive line, as usual, should be one of the best in the country this year.
Yeah, I think so as well, too. And Brockermeyer originally signed with Alabama, so he was part of Nick Saban's last couple of years, brought him in. So there's that connection as well, too. Then he went to TCU. I think he's locally from he is from Texas. I believe it's the Dallas area, so that's probably why I picked Texas Christian to be closer to home. But I think he's moved on to Miami and, got another one-and-done center, but maybe he'd be there for 2 years. Because consistency underneath that, specifically with the young quarterbacks coming in, I'm looking forward to. But definitely a strong anchor leader for that offensive line.
Yeah, and in the case of Brockermeyer, a couple of the other numbers here, he played 814 snaps this past season at TCU. He's 6'3.5", a little bit under 300 pounds, was Big 12 honorable mention this past season. I thought you pointed out another good thing, because maybe some people missed it when they were looking up Brockermeyer. Was originally recruited by Nick Saban at Alabama, wasn't playing a lot at Bama, so he transferred to TCU to get extra experience, and now he gets to play a final year or two under a couple of the best offensive line teachers and coaches in the country, with Mario Cristobal at head coach and, of course, Alex Mirabal. And, yeah, I'm looking at this Hurricanes offensive line, and of course, you've got multiple guys who can play center, with Brockermeyer projecting out as the starter. But Miami also has Nino Francavilla, Ryan Rodriguez, who can play center or guard. S.J. Alofa-Tuli is going to come in as a true freshman. He can play center or guard, and he might be ready in a rotational role to get on the field as a true freshman. At left guard, McCoy is probably going to get the starts and most of the reps there, but Ryan Rodriguez is also capable of playing at that spot. Miami still has Samson Okunlola, who can play multiple spots on the offensive line. I'm also, Raymond, glad that Miami got a lot of experience this year from Markel Bell during, those games that, especially the ones that Jalen Rivers missed. But even after Jalen Rivers came back from injury, Bell still got a lot of playing time because Markel Bell had an opportunity to get baptized by fire a little bit this season, and he looks like he's going to be a stud for the next couple of years at Miami. This could be the next great left tackle in the Mario Cristobal, Alex Mirabal lineage.
Yeah, absolutely. Cristobal's made just an incredible leaps and bounds in 3 years in the offensive line. It's actually incredible how we've just turned things around. Yes, the transfer has helped. Portal has helped, but the kicker is he knows what to do, bring in, how the mesh, how their physical skills, their blocking skills can work with each other and make that line so strong. Clearly, during the Pop-Tarts Bowl, you could see them just open up holes and gash holes for the running game. And that's what I'm looking forward toward next season is how it's going to be the key more than likely for us to have a successful season. And one of the things is James was like was the number one inside lineman. That means in the country for the transfer portal. I still am kind of surprised he got out of Texas. And I heard that A&M was interested in getting him. And thank goodness he went to Miami. But I think he knows what he's coming into. He's coming in to start. He's not going to come in there to be a rotational center. He's got 2 years left. He's got dreams of the NFL, I'm sure. I have a feeling like a lot of the guys who left Alabama, Saban was gone. Like, well, you recruited me. Now you're gone. And I'm leaving. And that's why I went to Texas Christian. So now I felt he wanted another year there. He knew he was going to start. Probably anything happened. Miami had their transfer center. And here we are with him now, but it's another one-and-done center. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a very interesting spring, meshing all the new freshmen coming in and how it's going to work out. And we have more transfers coming in. We have more guys leaving up the spring as well. So it's very important to keep those communication lines of recruiting open because they got to keep revamping that offensive line.
Yeah, and of course, Brockermeyer, just fresh off a Miami visit, decided to commit. He's not the only player that Miami has hosted over the weekend. Tight end Alex Bauman from Tulane also came in. There's been some projections that Miami's in a good spot for him. We'll see what happens. Miami does need another tight end. They're losing Elijah Arroyo to the NFL draft. They're losing Cam McCormick, who finally ran out of eligibility, and Cam had a really good year this past year, by the way. Nothing but love for Mr. McCormick. They're losing Riley Williams into the transfer portal. But the visits everyone have been talking about were the Branch brothers. Zachariah Branch, second available, top available wide receiver in the transfer portal, fourth overall player. And if Miami were able to land Zachariah Branch, he would end up being the top-rated player in Miami's transfer portal class. We're still waiting on a verdict from him. His brother, Zion Branch, a safety, also visited. And, I continue. Obviously, no commitments have happened yet. I was hoping maybe last night would be the night. We'll have to let the Branch brothers still continue to go through their process. But something that I continue to hear is, Raymond, that Miami really made a move for the Branch brothers. They're giving them a lot to think about. We saw kind of a cryptic tweet from Zachariah Branch when the Miami visit was wrapping up that kind of implies he's really interested. And I think one of the reasons why the Branch brothers are strongly considering Miami is Miami has like a legitimate need for both. They're not looking at, Zion Branch, who's the safety, who's not as highly ranked as Zachariah. The two of them, I think they definitely want to play together. But Miami's not looking at Zion like a +1 or like an add-on, because I think some of the other programs recruiting these guys are maybe looking at it, well, we really want Zachariah, so we'll take Zion. Miami, of course, we know, despite the fact they have added a couple of safeties already in the transfer portal, still have more needs in the defensive backfield. And I think they legitimately view Zion Branch, who is an excellent player, by the way. His career has been affected by injuries so far. Like, they look at him as a legitimate need. Like, Miami has a legitimate need for both Branch brothers. And Zachariah is someone who is a dynamic, explosive, fast track star slot receiver who's also an excellent returner. Because we know, Raymond, watching Miami this past season, we lacked a punch in the kick return and in the punt return game.
Yes, one of the worst ones I've seen in the last several years of no kick returners, no excitement, no being able to take it back all the way to the goal line to the house. Didn't see any of that. I had no confidence in it. So Zachariah would be a huge help to get the Miami receiving core. Definitely needed. Zion almost feels more important because we don't have that knockout safety we've had, God, I don't know how long. It definitely showed because we kept getting torched. It was like every time watching a game was like playing Madden on easy. It just seemed like, it'd always be a pinball fight. It'd always be, a 30-plus game. And it was more like whoever had the ball last and who would turn it over least would win the game the whole season. So that he would definitely be an opportunity in there. I know they're going to bring a lot more guys in. They've been bringing them in. They've got some young freshmen in, and they do have a few guys they've lost, but they've also had a lot of the freshmen that will soon to be sophomores that are going to be coming in spring. So the development of secondary is going to be huge this year because it was absolutely atrocious, and part of it was the scheme. I mean, when you got linebackers, watching this game, you got a lot of linebackers. It seemed like they were playing strong or free safety more than actually being linebackers, stopping the running game to go after the quarterback.
When we come back, I want to talk about an important hire that Mario Cristobal just made to the player personnel department, because you start to see this around college football. You're starting to see college football programs basically putting together NFL-style front offices, and I think Miami needs to trend more in that direction. They just made an important move. We'll talk about that. You want to keep it locked right here. We got our pal Raymond Borg, a.k.a. GA Cane fan, joining us on this brand new Saturday episode of Locked On Canes. You want to keep it locked. I already know you're keeping it locked to FanDuel. Guys, so much action still to be had. College football playoff semifinals. NFL is still going on. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up a dub. I love betting on which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. It's thrilling. Not only can you bet on who's going to win the game, but FanDuel also has bets for which players will score a touchdown, how many points each team will score. I mean, guys, obviously we're disappointed Miami lost the Pop-Tarts Bowl, but what we were not disappointed in was that easy over-under that we smashed in the first half of 55.5 points. We had that on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thank you so much for making this episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you also check out Locked On ACC. Kenton Gibbs and I take you through all the big storylines in the ACC. We're talking a lot of college football playoff on our new episode last night. Make sure you check that out free wherever you get your podcasts and free on YouTube. So I think this is a really important move. And I'd been hearing, Raymond, for the past several days that Miami was going to make some moves with the player personnel department. And here's someone that was about to join Bill Belichick's staff in North Carolina. Maybe Mario Cristobal took exception to Michael Lombardi taking a shot at him a couple of weeks ago. Lombardi works for Belichick. And so Cristobal swoops in and gets a guy that Belichick was about to hire, Taylor Edwards, who is someone who was recently working for the past 4 seasons as South Carolina's director of player personnel. He had that role since 2021. Noted to be instrumental in helping put together that team that went 9-3 this year. Prior to arriving at South Carolina, Taylor Edwards was director of recruiting operations at Maryland for a couple of seasons. He's also spent time at Arkansas and Jacksonville State. So this is a proven commodity when it comes to running recruiting departments and personnel departments. And Taylor Edwards is someone who is highly regarded and obviously sought after because he was about to join that very expensive staff that Bill Belichick is putting together. And, Raymond, we could talk about Edwards, but I also, in the big picture, I think it's really important this day and age. And of course, for a while, Miami had Alonzo Highsmith on the staff, but he moved back to the National Football League. I think that's where his heart really was. But you really need to be, and Mario Cristobal is a great recruiter, but you can't do everything by yourself. Like, you need to have an NFL-style personnel department this day and age with so much movement in the transfer portal, so many moving parts with NIL and high school recruiting. You need to have a guy like Taylor Edwards helping you hold down that front office.
Yeah, absolutely. It's completely changed from the days of only 6 years ago, where all you needed was a recruit, basically guys that could recruit and scout high school kids. And maybe you get a transfer now and then, but they always have to sit out a year unless they're a graduate transfer, and those are few and far between. So it's much different now. Like you said, you need to have someone dealing with the high school recruiting. You need someone to deal with keep an eye on the other college teams with players that may transfer. You got to deal with the NIL books, making sure who's getting paid, making sure they're getting paid, dealing with those budgets. Also support, communicate with the people that are actually donating the NIL money. That's a huge thing you must have to deal with. So Taylor Edwards, it's very interesting. Highsmith kind of was like did kind of break the mold. Everyone was like, why are you bringing Highsmith as a general manager of football? It doesn't make any sense. Things change quickly right now with college football with the way transfers are going. So now you do need someone to sit overhead like a CEO of some sort or a CFO, whatever CXO term you want to use. But Taylor Edwards is a very interesting hire. And if Belichick's wanted him, that's a huge plus for us because he's got connections with the North Carolina high schools and the universities around there, the other SEC teams, because he knows what the talent is and how to bring it. And also he can also get kids to South Carolina because he was fired from South Carolina. I did a little research last night for level 3 NCAA violations. I couldn't find any details of exactly what supposedly he had done or what the violations were. But I have a feeling he's got an axe to grind with South Carolina, specifically how well it is, specifically at the end of the year. Now, he was hot. Now, he brought in most of the talent. He was fired like right before the SEC meetings, where I could tell. But Beamer did not want to make any comments during the SEC meetings about it. So it's kind of very strange. Nothing's leaked out. So it sounds like South Carolina's got things very sealed up. So whatever happened. But that doesn't mean he's got a bad taste in his mouth. But it's going to be very interesting how it's going to work, especially with the spring transfers and also with the playoff teams that are still in there right now. Who's going to leave?
Yeah, no doubt. So welcome to, I guess we got 2 welcome to the U's today. We got one for James Brockermeyer. We got one for Taylor Edwards, who moves into that front office. And there's already, really good people who work in the recruiting department. I mean, our guy D-Train, Dennis Smith, Coach Field, there's so many in there. But to be able to add someone with a proven track record like Edwards, and listen, man, level 3 violations, whatever it was, I'm sure the vetting process was big because, he was about to get a job at North Carolina. He gets a job at Miami. Now, Raymond, any thoughts on what you think is going to happen at defensive coordinator? I talked a lot in yesterday's episode about Tim Banks from Tennessee, who I really like. Nothing's done there in any direction, but I have heard since yesterday maybe more Clemson buzz for him than Miami buzz because Dabo Swinney also has a defensive coordinator spot open. I continue to hear about someone like Tyler Santucci as an option for Miami. That's the Georgia Tech defensive coordinator. There has been some buzz around Pat Fitzgerald, who's the former head coach at Northwestern. There's been some buzz for somebody like Will Muschamp, but I think that might just be fan buzz. I haven't seen any real links there with a guy like Muschamp. But one thing I am of the understanding that this could get wrapped up pretty quickly, like within the next few days. But with that said, I'm not sure who it's going to be. Who would you like to see as the next defensive coordinator?
I think with Banks at Tennessee, I mean, I can hear the Clemson. I don't understand why, because they've only taken one transfer since the transfer portal started. So I think that's a real negative because Tennessee brought in a lot of transfers. I don't think Banks is from UCF, where their head coach is from. I don't remember him as an assistant, but Banks would be a kind of a good move, even though he didn't look too great against Ohio State a few weeks ago. Ohio State.
No, not too many people do these days. I mean,
no, I think they're going to win the whole thing. I told you that a couple weeks ago. I'm like, they've lost Michigan. Moving on, but I love to see Georgia Tech's coordinator come down here, Tyler. I think he'd be excellent. But we got to spend a lot of money because Texas A&M's after him, and they've got the booster money and oil money. And those are real deep pockets. But I think that would be a great fit as well, too. It's not a long shot. I've got no evidence about it. Going back to Ohio State, there's been ever since Ryan Day got all that flack for losing to Michigan, there was been articles as will Ryan Day even stay after all this? So that if he does leave, Jim Nolens could be potentially available. Now, he's originally from his last coaching job was DC at Oklahoma State. I don't know if there's going to be a head coaching job. Will he take time off? Will he get a head coaching job? But that's someone to keep an eye. It's an eye on. Maybe it's a really long shot, way out of left field. People think I'm, way off base. But that's something I can be kind of thinking about. What happens to that Ohio State base? That's all those coaching base, along with some of those players. If Ryan Day quits, and it's like, do they want to deal with the nonsense of Ohio State? Let's be honest. Ohio State is Mississippi State of the Big 10, basically.
So your theory, and listen, I could ride with you on this to an extent. So, basically, and I agree. I made my pick, last night. I think Ohio State is going to win the national championship. I've been wrong before. We'll see what happens in the Final Four. But you think for Ryan Day, who's taken so much flack, he gets to win that championship this year and then basically put both middle fingers up and say,
See ya.
peace. I'm out of here. You guys didn't
See
want
ya.
me here. I'm going to leave on top.
That's right. Leave on top. Get ESPN's hiring people there and work with ESPN for a year, show a personality, and wait for the right job to pop up and to say, I'm out of here. I'm done. I've had enough. The abuse he's been taking, his family's been taking. Especially after the Michigan loss and the flag thing, it's just more of like the writers have been saying that he's just going to walk away. And if he wins his title, what a great way to go out. Thank you. Appreciate it. Because
So who was it you were telling me thinks he might actually do that? Was it The Athletic that you were telling me?
Yeah, there's a couple of writers from The Athletic. I don't have a writer right now, but he did make that comment about that in The Athletic, that he would potentially walk away. No, it sounds like in fact more of a gut feeling. It's like, why would anyone want to put up with that?
Yeah. Wow. What about the quarterback situation? And I know people make fun of me for this all the time because I've been very, very supportive of giving Emory Williams an opportunity, but he really had a poor audition in that bowl game, and I think he's capable of better than that. But then there's also the perception factor. You're trying to recruit great offensive players. You probably need at least to bring in somebody to compete, if not a more proven commodity at quarterback. There were some rumors out there about Jaden Maiava from USC, but USC folks think he's going to be staying there, and the deadline for him to enter the portal has already gone, and I've seen no evidence that Maiava entered the portal. Jalen Milroe, it looks like he is actually fully committing to going pro. Maybe he could still pull a Cam Ward, but it seems like he's full speed ahead. He's accepted a Senior Bowl invite. Carson Beck, he declared to go pro, but again, this day and age with what Cam Ward did last year, which worked out well for Miami, you can never be 100% sure that guys are going to follow through with these pledges to go pro until the deadline actually passes. People wonder about Quinn Ewers. I mean, what would you, Raymond, like to see happen with the quarterback spot at the U?
It's a little bit trickier right now just because, like you, I was a believer in Williams. I think the reason we like him so much is because we remember him breaking his other non-throwing arm against Florida State, so we kind of won our hearts there. But he didn't look that great either. But I think it was a very difficult spot to put him in with the second half because the game plan was all around Ward. I'm not going to get into should have Ward been playing the second half. We don't know what happened. So that's also water under the bridge. But I think the biggest thing is Mario's always said, competition. We need to keep every position. Nobody's job is safe. You've got to compete and earn your spot. And I'm looking forward to Luke Nickel as well, too. 2-time Georgia State championship. It was just recently the Georgia High School Player of the Year. I watched that game at least as much as I could stay up for because I think it ended up I think the over-under was 140, 135. There was no defense in that game whatsoever. He looks like the real deal. Georgia desperately wanted him. And if you saw the Georgia game yesterday, they do need a quarterback because it didn't work out too well without Beck. And I just think it's very interesting. The fan base was glad to see Beck out. It was like, and even the locker room supposedly. But, Beck, I think, will go pro, even though his girlfriend's playing basketball with Miami Hurricanes right now. Ewers is the one I'm interested in because that's the wild card because they've got to push him out. They don't have a choice because of Manning. And it's a really weird situation for Ewers to be in. But also will he go pro? I heard fourth round pick, but next year is going to be a very difficult draft. A lot of good quarterbacks coming out. So what does he do? I think it just depends on his NFL grade and how well he does with the national championship, but he could be a contender. But I like to see Williams get, I don't want to say another chance, but hopefully he's going to compete, but we'll know more in the spring. So we're going to get a transfer. I'd love to see him get Ewers. Maybe it's another long shot, and I'm a dreamer, but I think that's legit, specifically with the strong offensive line. They'll keep him upright.
Yeah, and another name that we've talked about a lot on Locked On Canes for about the past week, Mark Gronowski, who's an FCS quarterback. He's leaving South Dakota State. But he, just so people know, he is going to be, or he might right now be visiting Iowa. So if Miami is interested in Gronowski, you got to hope that that Iowa doesn't lock him up in the room because that's a place he's visiting right now. I can't say for sure Miami is trying to go all in for Gronowski, but that's, a prominent quarterback name who's out there, had a great FCS career, is considered to be a future NFL draft pick. Probably would be more of a 6th or a 7th round grade right now, but is trying to build up his draft stock. So if that is an option for Miami, you've got to hope he leaves Iowa without committing. But when we come back, I want to get Raymond's take, because he's got a different perspective than some of the other folks we talk about here on Locked On Canes in terms of the trajectory of the program, because only Miami can make a lot of people feel like a 6-6 season when they went 10-3. So I'd like to get Raymond's perspective on this year and the direction of the program. And we all know you're not going to have Cam Ward next year, so it's going to be very difficult and a tough schedule next season. So how are we feeling about the big picture of the program? You want to keep it locked right here, my friends. We're not done yet on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. We're certainly not done yet with Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? It's happened to all of us. I had a few subscriptions I didn't even realize I was still paying for it. Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is that subscription tracker. I've used it to cancel services I wasn't using anymore, and I've already saved a ton. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my family's future. No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Folks, it's been a fun offseason already, covering all the transfer portal moves, coaching changes, personnel hires. Welcome Tyler Edwards to the Miami Hurricanes family. Or if I want to get his name right, Taylor Edwards. I apologize. Welcome him to the Miami Hurricanes family. We've been covering all this stuff, not only here on the show, but on the Locked On Canes Insiders chat. So make sure you click the link in the show description below. Try it free for 14 days. Then if you like it, you can opt in for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there on the Locked On Canes Insiders chat. So, Raymond, some important transfer players have been added so far, James Brockermeyer being the most recent one. Miami has added 6 guys. They actually have the highest average quality per player added so far. So it's been more of a quality over quantity thing so far for Miami. They're looking for a defensive coordinator, which is the search is exciting. I just hope they get the right guy. They've added a player personnel executive, which I think really shows a commitment to wanting to be just more professional with the way that they scout players. Coming off a 10-win season, like how do you feel right now about the job Mario Cristobal is doing and about the trajectory of the Canes football program?
Yeah, right now, as I predicted at the beginning of the season, I said 11-1. I didn't think Florida State was going to fall apart the way they did. Well, I've liked to see us get the ACC title game. Yeah. Am I disappointed to an extent? Yeah. But I see us going in the right direction. We're still bringing in key players. We're not losing recruits like we did with the last several staff where we get all these guys commit and then they would go somewhere else to 5 stars, 4 stars. We never even got a 5-star until Mario came back. It's been forever. We're in the right direction. He's making changes. He's firing people. It's not like we had Al Golden, who all of a sudden learned how to run a defense at Notre Dame, kept his best friend at DC until the very end and made sure no one else could call plays. He's getting the right staff. I believe he's going to make more coaching changes because it's not just going to be a new DC. They're going to have to make changes, specifically in the secondary, potentially linebacker. I don't know. It all depends what the new DC wants. Will Mario let him pick his own assistants, or will it be a mutual relationship between Mario and him, and maybe even Edwards maybe want to get involved in that, who they want to pick as assistant coaches for his contacts in the Carolinas. But I think we are going in the right direction. Maybe it's a little slower than what we want, but it feels a lot better than what it was the last 4 to 13 years, where we were all hoping and delusional of all these kids are going to bring in. They're going to be all coached up, and it was going to be 1987 all over again. It never happened. It wasn't really. Everything had changed. the fan base has really been on to hear things like, we're going to fire Mario. We're going to, this coach stinks. They got to fire him. And I'm like, what do you, I don't know what you guys want anymore. And it's really just insane. Some of the comments I see. I'm not huge in social media. I'll see a couple of things, but I do see your chat, and it's just, I just don't understand some of the comments. And yes, it's we're waiting. As I get older, I want to see more championships before I leave the planet. But I also know it's going to take time, and it's a different world. It's still not settled yet. I mean, no one knows how to handle the transfer portal completely. I thought it would be plug a few people's places here. We need this position at safety, or a tailback, or a quarterback, or a center in our case. But then you got Notre Dame. They brought in 7 or 8 guys, and they're in the Final Four of the playoffs. So it's going to be hit or miss, and there's going to be maybe some downturns. But we're in the right direction. He's got support at the university. We've got the right AD. He's bringing in the money that we need for the NIL money. He's got the connection with the high school. I mean, my God, he's still getting guys from Pacific Northwest to come over, and Vegas.
Yeah.
I mean, we do need to win. He needs to write the coordinator. He's not a coordinator. He's not that type of Nick Saban head coach. So be it. But he's trying to find the right staff to do it, and he's not afraid to make changes. And I think we're heading in the right direction, and I truly believe in him that we're in the right direction. I think next year's going to be a lot better than everyone thinks it is. When I'm hearing 8 wins, 9 wins, I'm like, that's not acceptable to Mario. He won't put up with that. He's been thinking about this, 2025, 2026, who he wants to bring in. He's not going to sit there and want to go do a forgive me, Florida State, 11 and 11, undefeated season, and then win 3 games. He's not going to stand for that. He will leave on his own accord before that continuation. So I believe we're still in the right projectile. Will we win? Hopefully we'll win 10 games, but we got a heck of a schedule, Notre Dame. Yeah. But I still think we're going to be competitive. We're going to be. I don't know about the quarterback, but we're going to be I think we're going to be a running team, and I expect whoever gets a DC, that defense is going to turn around, specifically in the secondary.
I hope so. Your mouth to God's ears. And in terms of quarterback recruiting, I mean, I will say any quarterback who's thinking of hitting that transfer portal, you look at the offensive line you can play behind at Miami, right? You're going to be well protected with the likes of Markel Bell, Matthew McCoy, James Brockermeyer, Inez Cooper, CeCe Maui. No, you're going to have one of the cleanest jerseys in the country. So, yeah, I mean, if there are quarterbacks out there, if you're in the portal already, I know that's few and far between, but if you still have an opportunity to enter that portal, there's worse spots you can go to than Miami right now. I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's why I think we're in the Ubers. We're in the Ubers. I'm screwing up his name myself now.
Quinn.
It's when he leaves Texas. If he leaves Texas, we are in the sweepstakes. But it's we can keep our quarterbacks upright, and that's huge. And if Ward goes top 10 in the draft, that's going to be even more bringing great quarterbacks. We're getting there. It's going to take time, and I'm hoping the best for Luke Nichols. I hope Luke Nichols will turn to Jake Garcia.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, and I don't think he will. I have full belief in Luke Nichols. I've watched that young man very closely for the past 2 years, and he's got the right head on his shoulders, and he is an absolute gamer. Well, we appreciate everyone's time. Make sure you smash that like button. You subscribe to Locked On Canes on YouTube. Subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey app, wherever you get your pods. Thanks so much to Raymond Borg, the Georgia Canes fan, for joining us. We will talk to everybody next time. Hopefully, next time we talk, maybe we'll have a new defensive coordinator, some new transfer players. We're still keeping our eyes out on the Branch brothers. And when Raymond mentioned the Las Vegas pipeline for Mario Cristobal, we've got to hope that plays out with the Branch brothers, because they played at Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas, where S.J. Alofi-Tuli played, where Elijah Lofton played. I'm sure Elijah and SJ have been recruiting these guys to the University of Miami. So we'll talk to everyone next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.